So I've jumped into the fourth turn of Warrior Knights and gone through a number of cards without a lot happening. This is pretty standard. Red moved in and took Vecht. There was some fortification activity that was available. Some people, like Black, ruined their cash. They have no more money left in order to build a fortification. Now, that may mean they're going to lose their mercenaries. They came to a deal with Yellow. Yellow is indeed going to head this way. Black is going to have freedom to head that way. They've fought enough. But this brings, between this and the victory conditions, and maybe the pulsing as well, but mainly those two, I began to realize something about why this, and maybe Twilight Imperium too, feel more Euro-ish, other than just the way the game plays, than, say, the original did. So, it's the victory conditions. Here I'm sitting here trying to collect these points. Yes, there might be some, conflict involved. We see Yellow and Black were locked in a bit of a battle, but it wasn't that titanic struggle to the death that you might expect in this game to get control of this area. Control doesn't really matter. It comes down to, if we keep fighting, we're both going to be hurt. We're not going to produce victory points as quickly as we should. So let's be peaceable. And, of course, Black's got the advantage here. But this is the whole thing. There's no wiping someone out as sort of a necessity in this game. In fact, it's an impossibility, unless you play with the sudden death on the castles. But this is actually really kind of disturbing. I like the fast flow of play. I like a lot of issues about it, but I don't feel like I'm playing the kind of epic style game that, the term just doesn't fit. It's just a bigger Euro again. I'm enjoying this one more because the decisions are simpler, but I start realizing, wow, I'm just going for these victory points. I'm going for this share of the pool. And even with the Crown expansion, because it goes down to 16, it's still going to be, I'm going for victory points. I don't have to hurt someone to get that. Now, in Twilight Imperium, there are special, some of your hidden objectives could be to hurt someone else. That's great, whatever. But still, it's my personal goal to go do that. It's not like it's intrinsic to trying to win the game. So, Red's in a pretty good position here. Why? Because they're alone. Now, that would be true in either game. They'd be able to build up and prepare themselves better. But they don't need to. They can just sit here and play their little game, and as long as no one interferes with them, they'll be collecting their 3 points per turn, and other people, and they're expanding, and other people who are actually actively involved in combat and conflict, and one feels that this should be a game involving conflict, just like Twilight Imperium should, those people are going to not produce victory points as quickly. So why are they losing? Well, they're losing because they dared fight. Yeah, this becomes a game where, in order to become king or whatever, the actual thing to do is to stay out of the combat. Now, that does not match my expectations, and it does not match what the old Warrior Knights felt like. With the sudden death ending of, grabbing half the cities, yeah, you'll get that. But you can't get there. The influence pool is too small, I think, for many games to end that way. For anybody to really make a move that way, because overall, that will hurt you in your influence to make that shot, to say be raising cities and trying to push your growth in that direction, because you can't hold everything. So you take an area and launch out of it and then destroy someone else's area and move forward. Those are cool ways to play. I don't think they'll work with this. I don't think there's enough time with the influence chits. Now, of course, if you threw lots and lots more influence chits in, maybe it would become a valuable alternative way to play. Still, though, this collecting of the victory points doesn't quite work for me. All right. Well, I'll go on to the next player, and I'll keep playing this out. I'm beginning to think that one has to kind of wrestle with that whole victory point syndrome on these, as opposed to the. It's not just the pulsed movement that's kind of disturbing. It's the fact that the game's actual objectives inhibit warfare. Well, at the end of the first round, we see black has expanded into their area, counting on yellow to keep their side of the bargain. We'll see if they do or not. Purple has grabbed both Isar and Jerusalem. That's going to give them a much higher tax base, especially with Jerusalem's big 7. So that's very positive from their point of view. Other than that, not a lot. We're seeing a lot of cards being played here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 in taxation. A lot of people, pretty much everybody but red, is a little worried that maybe wages would flow before taxation. So they played towards trying to make sure that they get some cash to keep their armies on the float. Well, we'll see. Well, a little bit into the second round, yellow started to move out. Green came to an agreement with blue and decided not to let purple keep advancing kind of without check. Green is looking at an advance in this direction, purple or blue down this way. They came to that, and green attacked here. The purple star doesn't have a lot of strength. In fact, he's only got 350 total. Most of the troops are overseas in Jerusalem. So he was able to fight a battle, and he had a 1-card advantage. He drew a bunch of victory cards, got a major victory against, oops. Yeah, I'll let that sit. That's not what I intended. Against the purple leader, enough to kill the purple leader. That'll take him off the board. Let's look at what we did this before, and it didn't count. What the results are in such a case. If I can find it. Okay, we count the victories. We resolve noble deaths. Any casualty tokens? There weren't any. I caused a casualty, however, to, who is this? Green square, who can prevent that. Did I cause another? Yeah. So 1 casualty token over on green square, if I can find him. But I gotta look to page 18, it says, for noble death. Draw for deserters. Draw a fate card. Okay, we can do that. And we get Swiss. He only has Tuscans. Tuscans. Sorry. Lose casualties. He didn't have any casualties, so he doesn't lose any. He's removed. His heir will come into the game during the upkeep phase, and that's all that happens, except that this city, which was involved in the fight, is now green. And that's a big blow for purple, actually. Okay, and green, and these cards get discarded. I'm not sure in what order. And green gets to decide whether they want to put this in the wages column or in the assembly column. They're kind of low on money. They'll go here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That's up 2. Alright, well now taxation was triggered, and that was, I think black triggered it. Not bad for black, they made some money, but purple, green, red already had piles but made good money as well. They made about $10, more than that, and they had sent 5 out on a ship to the Spice Islands. Now we're seeing the pulling ahead of the economies in this game, where the people who have been able to kind of grow in peace and set themselves up are in really, really good shape. Now, green wasn't really in peace, but they've gotten themselves a nice little kingdom here in the north. Purple, well, they lost something, but they got something so potent, and they have their forts in their other kind of valuable territories that they're making good money too. So when you compare that to poor yellow, who's having to try to get by on whatever they can raise from pillaging, basically, they haven't gotten anything yet, and they're in deep trouble. The fact that they're at peace with black, well, it doesn't really help them because they're not pulling the income in. All right, well, we'll keep going. And immediately after that, the assembly got triggered. Let's see what happened. Some big money was spent on the first one, actually, which I didn't think was terribly valuable, Master of the Revels. The reason is you can turn 5 crowns into an influence. In fact, you must at the end of every turn. Well, there's people with enough money at this point that they can do that regularly, and getting an extra influence each turn, even if it's kind of draining your cash flow, seems like a good idea, because some of the people seem to have stable, good cash. At least they think they do right now. They may not. Blue, one of the less stable people, actually took it. And they paid not all that much, I think 4 for it maybe, but it looked more valuable after that. The other 2 went to yellow, and they went mainly unopposed. I think red challenged them on the Master of the Royal Stables, which gives this one leader the ability to move 2 spaces or 4 on the road. They also took the Master Ranger, which was what they really wanted. That was for only 3. They're able to replace one of the action cards that they played here once in each turn with, oh, is it each round? Once per game round. I have to know what that means. What is a round? Okay, once in the entire cycle of the turn. They can use this ability to pull one of their cards from their hand and use it in place of one of the ones that they pre-picked. Personally, I think that may be very valuable on occasion, maybe not all the time. Now we get to see what the new ones are going to be. It's a private motion. Looks like it's for green. I think, oh, it's randomly choose a... Okay, it's not the color of the player on the card. How about that? The original game, it was each player had their own random motions. Here it's at random. Lord Great Sensual has 150 maintained troops. It's always nice to have free troops, isn't it? And banned from office. You may never be chairman of the assembly or head of the church. This is a charge. If you are chairman of the assembly, you lose it to the baron with the next highest number of votes. If you're head of the church, you lose it to the baron with the next highest number of faith. Well, that's one of those, let's pick on the winner, or one of the leaders who seems kind of dangerous at this point. That's a cool little thing, but it only reflects that you can't be chairman or head of the church. It doesn't say that you can't hold, that your leaders can't hold offices, or that you can't have another charge. You're allowed 3 charges. If you're handed that, and then you end up getting 3 charges and then 1 more, you can discard that one for free, which is kind of cool. That looks like it. We got a couple more cards left in this round, and then we go into the next. Well, best laid plans and all that. Right after that, a food shortage came up, which forced each baron to pay wages for the troops in their largest army. Noble abilities don't apply, so we actually saw a big hunk of Swiss come off the yellow. They didn't have much money left, and everyone else, kind of their padding went away. Black especially is kind of weak at this point. I'm going to have to shuffle those Swiss back into the deck. Okay, well, the turn's ended, and we can see Red's put another noble down to take some of the burden off the guy. This was silly, who got made Marshal of the Realm. Well, it's the guy who has free, the ability to hold free troops that got elected to that. Unfortunately, Red made a bad move by putting that there. He's had to pull another leader into play in order to make sure that he doesn't pay taxes on that because the wages are coming due there. That'll help reduce his costs. Purple also played their heir with whatever he's got left. Otherwise, nothing new coming out. It's kind of strange because there's this state of stasis. None of the kingdoms are big enough to really be massively capable of having, a lot of troops on the board at once. So it ends up kind of, okay, we're not that much bigger than we were to begin with. Does it make sense to split up into smaller units? In some cases, maybe it does. But for the most part, everybody's decided 2 guys seems to be about the right coverage, even if it means that some of their territories aren't going, to be as well defended against revolts. And we saw a lot, I think, 5 or 6 faith counters spent to prevent revolts this term. All right, everybody's got to pick their new stuff, and I'll load this up.